I've just started tracking or trying to track calories with MyFitnessPal, the app. Do you recommend that, or would you, well, how do you track calories on a daily basis while you're on the move and the like?
It's it's quite difficult to do when you're on the move,
Yeah.
because otherwise you'll be scanning barcodes left, right, and center, or you'll be
Yeah.
creating like the basic macros, like the proteins, carbs, and fats of most foods.
Yeah.
Um, it really depends on how much time you have,
Okay. Yeah.
because the thing is, if you're really hungry and you've been 2 hours since your last meal and you wait till then, and then you're like, oh, how many calories can I have? Oh,
Yeah.
you scan it, and then you're hungry, and then you're going to get a bit maybe moody because you haven't eaten
Yeah.
yet. In that instance, if it's not crucial that you're tracking them for the purpose of cutting weight, if it's just for the purpose of, okay, well, I want to see what my intake is, eat
Yeah.
the food, satisfy the hunger, and then track it
Yeah.
afterwards. That's a pretty
Okay.
better way of doing it. If you do it every meal, then I guess that has the potential to be monotonous, and annoying. It could. It just really depends on how much time you have. But MyFitnessPal works if you don't mind a few ads. One of the ones that the 3DMJ guys used to use was Fit Genie, and then another one that Jeff Nippard is promoting. It's called Macro Fit, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So each one of those different apps, they actually, obviously, each of those companies or individuals or coaching teams, they support them, and they probably get some kickback in terms of the promotions behind it.
Yeah.
But for the purpose of tracking your macros, they are reasonably accurate. They're never going to be 100%,
Yeah.
but they can at least give you some sort of a guide to see where you're at, where your protein's at, maybe where your carbs at, maybe sugar levels, and that sort of thing. Particularly if you are actually scanning the barcodes, because pretty much most foods in Australia, they should have most of the things that they come up with on a MyFitnessPal scanner. And if you rotate your phone, I don't know if you've noticed, when you look at it in this view, it's going to be
Yeah.
long. And then if you actually want to look at the macro split, you got to split in the phone that way. And
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
means when you scroll to the bottom, you can actually see, oh, well, what is the proteins, carbs, and fats? Because, yeah, so that's the best way that if you did want to track it, for that purpose. The other thing to do is as well is to actually try tracking maybe every second day or once a week or once every 3 days.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
once you get a ballpark figure of knowing, okay, well, I'm eating this much protein and this is what it looks like, or I'm
Yeah.
eating this much carbohydrates and this is what it looks like, then you're able to save the time of actually spending, because it will take five minutes after every meal, depending on how complex your food is. If it's really simple, like a tin of tuna and some steamed rice that you stick in the microwave, then that's easy because you just scan the barcode. But if you actually
Yeah.
have to weigh the food and all that sort of thing, so it can work like that as well. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
and then whether it's a good way to keep yourself in check, whether you do it once a week, whether you do it every fortnight, or whether once a month. I tend to not track until I actually am in a full cutting phase,
Okay.
only because I have enough of it when I'm doing that I don't really feel like doing it. And I mainly track in my head roughly a protein target. So
Okay.
the best.
So, oh, sorry, coach. So take us through your bulking. I'm always fascinated because I'm still in the bulking first phase per se, but I
Yeah.
just want to know, take us through your bulking phase. So what does that look like? Especially in diet and meal plan, especially being a like working, you know, a full-time job, so on and so forth. That's going to be hard to actually manage. So can you
Okay.
take me through that? Just kind of like for anyone out there that's, yeah.
Sure. So obviously mine is in relation to my metabolism. It doesn't necessarily, it's,
Yeah.
then if another person follows it, they might end up finding they either gain weight, they might lose weight. It really depends. But in any case, my first target that I usually try to figure out is how much protein intake do I want to have on a daily basis. There's a lot of information out there that you can follow, and honestly, there's stuff that's provided by the Australian Institute of Sport, looking at anywhere between 1.2 and 1.7 grams per kilo of body weight.
Okay.
So if you weigh 100 kilos, and you might multiply it by 1.7, that's 170 grams. And then on the other flip side, if you look at websites like maybe bodybuilding.com or something like that, then some people recommend anywhere between 2 to 2.5 times body weight. Now, a lot of websites are in American, so they're going to be in pounds, but it roughly is for every kilo of weight that you are, that's roughly about how many grams of protein that you're looking at. So let me think about that. Your height in centimeters is per grams. So if you're 161 centimeters, then you're aiming for about 161 grams. If you're taller, generally taller people are bigger people. So if you're 2 meters, then you might be aiming. Now that is a guide, and some people can be either anywhere between 10 and 30%, depending on where they fit that in. But a higher protein diet, it allows for muscle growth. It also obviously allows for the repair processes as well. The best way to devise that, once you decide, okay, if I'm going to go by my height per grams, and just say if you're 170 centimeters, then you might have 3 meals a day and you divide 170 by 3. It might be 170 by 4. If we had, and that means you'll have roughly about the even amount of protein per meal. So if you had, 40 grams per meal, and you had 4 meals, 4 fours is 16, that's 160 grams. So that's including not just the higher protein source, so like your protein shakes, your meats, your legumes, even a cup of rice, even 100 grams of broccoli and sweet potatoes still have a certain amount of proteins, carbs, and fats in them. So, and you'll find that obviously when you track your calories, when you put it in and you punch it in at 100 grams broccoli or roughly something like that.
Yeah.
In terms of what does mine look like, so because I'm well off seasoned and I'm trying to push my weight up, then the gaining, and also I'm 40 this year, so my newbie gains of gaining 5 kilos a year are pretty much over. So in saying that, in terms of what do I try to aim to gain? I try to aim to gain about half a kilo to a kilo a month. So that's anywhere between 6 kilos and 12 kilos in a year.
Yeah.
So am I going to gain 6 to 12 kilos of lean muscle in that time? Well, no, not naturally. I wouldn't anyway. So if I'm lucky to get, and the reason why I say half a kilo to a kilo is because if I gain too much, then when I want to decide to cut weight, then I'm going to have to cut a lot of weight just for that 1 kilo that I might get, or half a kilo of lean muscle. So I'm probably at the stage where I probably get anywhere between half a kilo to a kilo per year if I'm lucky. And gaining that half a kilo to a kilo is about, I can do that without actually tracking my food. So what that might look like though is that each week I jump on the scales after I've gone to the bathroom, before I've drank some water.
Before you've eaten.
Yeah, and I'm pretty much wearing the same clothes or whatever clothes you want to wear, as long as they're the same. And then just say if I weigh 90 kilos, if my goal by the end of the month, I set up a spreadsheet, if my goal is to be 90.5, then I need to be weighing in on a weekly basis throughout this month. So this month, to just say this is March, at 90.5, every weigh in once a week. Now, if you weigh yourself every day, you're going to have a variance of anywhere between 1 and 3 kilos, depending on what you had last night for dinner, how much sodium you had. Did you do a lot of cardio? Did you sweat out a lot of things? You know, or are you still holding on to, you know, yesterday's dinner? Did you go and eat half a pizza or 2 pizzas or something like that? You're going to, because when you obviously eat more carbohydrates, you hold on to more water. It's like a sponge.
Yeah.
So that's why I try. And any advice that I ever give to any clients is try not to weigh yourself any more than once a week, because it's similar to tracking food with your phone. Jumping on the scales, you can actually really stress yourself out a lot.
Yeah.
And I've done every single one of the things that I'm suggesting not to do, because weighing myself every day, done that. Tracked every day, done that. Okay, and it creates a bit of an unhealthy habit with you in a set of scales, whether you're going up weight, whether you're going down weight. And likewise, if you're tracking your food as well, it can create a bit of an unhealthy habit that you become. You're like, oh my God, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, I can't eat that. What can I eat? Oh, I'm going nuts. You know, so because food is meant to nourish your body, it's meant to be enjoying, and it can become a very stressful experience. And that's why I save it for the cutting period of time, because up until then, if at the end of this month I gain an extra half a kilo and I get 1.5 kilos, I'm not really worried about that, because I'm not chasing after that ideal image on Instagram that people tend to post when they're only 1 week post competition or pre-competition. That doesn't really faze me. Like, each in their own, but you know, I'm not going for a photo shoot. You know, I have to look a certain way. I'm happy with the way I look and wear a t-shirt, and it's not like I walk around the beach. And even if I did, it doesn't really matter anyway. But so yeah, in terms of, that's how I track the weight. So anywhere between half a kilo and a kilo. In terms of the meal, it starts with the protein first. So I work out, so whatever that is, however many meals I want to have, then I split it up and I try to make it even for each one. And then after that, it's based on how full I'm feeling. So if I'm trying to gain weight, then by the end of the day, I need to feel like I've got a little food baby belly so that I've got to sleep. If I go to bed hungry, I'll wake up lighter. And that's how, if you think about it, if you go to bed, you go and do a normal session, and then you have maybe some meat and some salad, or some meat and some vegetables, rather than something like some pasta or breads or cereals or something like that before you go to bed. You're going to wake up lighter because you don't have those stored carbohydrates in your body. They're not there. And your morning training session, if you are a morning training session, probably won't be that great because you don't have anything rather than just some protein and some salad. So I go to bed with satisfied. Not you could poke me and throw up, because if that's going to happen, I'll probably weigh an extra 5 kilos by the end of the month. And then on a weekly or fortnightly basis, I jump on the scales, and if I'm down like a kilo or 2, I'm like, then I literally say to myself, I have a conversation with myself, you need to pick yourself up. And what I mean by that is that I need to be a little bit more rigid in terms of making sure, just say I'm down weight, making sure that I have that 1 cup of oats in the morning, that I have another meal 2 hours later, that I have another meal after that 2 hours later. And same if I'm up weight too high, if I jump on the scales every fortnight and I'm up 2 kilos too high than where I should be, then I'm like, well, maybe I ate too many chocolate bars, or maybe I've had too many cheat meals, and, you know, like, that wasn't really part of the plan. So rather than me get at the end of the month and going, oh my God, I weigh 92, I should be 90.5, then that weekly check-in with myself, the conversation that I have with myself is, do I maintain as usual, or do I have a little bit more to get a little bit heavier, or do I pull back a bit and because I'm gaining too quickly? So that's kind of an auto-regulation sort of technique that I look at. That's taken me a while to get to that point, because like I said, I've tried I've tracked the macros post competition. I've done the bulking. I've documented it to a T. I've done the cut to a T. This is a lot easier because this effectively it means I can virtually eat whatever I want, but in terms of the portioning, then when I do my check-in with myself, then it's like, okay, I'm up to a bit too much. Maybe pull back a bit, maybe go a bit further. And
Yeah.
that's really how I structure that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that because myself being me, I tend to overdo everything in the sense of and this is part of just how I am, but I tend to overthink things, or I will either do it and I have to do it to a certain standard, or I don't do it at all. And that can lead to me procrastinating for a lot. And that was, and that can be pretty, what's the word? Not good when it comes to bodybuilding. And
No.
very true. And what, just to summarize from what you said, for anyone planning to try and kind of like bulk or make a meal plan out there, just focus on the protein and trying to make that as even with every meal that you have, and just track with that first, and yeah, go from there. Was that,
Pretty
yeah,
much. Like in terms of when I actually start to build an actual kind of a plan for myself, protein starts first, and then as long as if you just say if I've got 40 grams for 5 meals, that's 200 grams. All right.
yeah,
I build that however I want, whether it's a cup of protein powder, which is 25 grams plus a bit of extra chicken. That's pretty bland and boring, but it could be done that way.
yeah,
Then after that is dependable on how do I what do I like to eat, and what's accessible, because I might say, well, you got to have pasta for every meal, but you might feel really heavy and sluggish. So some people they prefer brown rice, they might prefer basmati rice, they might prefer bread. That might be more accessible. If you're gluten intolerant, you're probably not going to be eating bread all the time. I can tell you that much now.
yeah,
So a lot of my carb sources are generally like a very raw whole food source. So they're usually one ingredient. So you might just boil it, cook it, or you eat it raw. That's generally what they are. And that's also based around time as well. Like if I'm out and about and I haven't had breakfast, well, I'm probably going to go to McDonald's and go and get four eggs by themselves and four English muffins.
yeah,
You know, I'm not going to get the
yeah,
sausage, and I'm definitely not getting the bacon. I might get the cheese though, but
yeah,
um, that ensures that I get for every egg I get 5 grams of protein, and every muffin gets probably about anywhere between 1 and 1.5 grams of protein per muffin.
yeah,
That probably gives me something about 30 grams, maybe add in a bit of cheese. It might be 35 grams of protein just in that one meal. Now that's 4 eggs, 4 English muffins, and 4 slices of cheese. In
yeah,
terms of the fats, when I structure that, it's usually something that once you fill up the protein and the carbohydrate, the fats kind of come with themselves. You don't have to go, oh, I need to go and have a tablespoon of olive oil because I definitely need to get my 20% fat, because, where am I going to get that from? So
yeah,
you won't need to do that. You pretty much, like I said, if you in most meals, if you're going to add a bit of cheese, you're going to have some avocado, you're going to have some nuts or peanut butter on a sandwich, or even any of the breads. If you think about some of the breads that got a lot of seeds and grains in them, well, they're probably going to have a certain amount of oils in them as well. So it kind of comes naturally
yeah,
by itself. So
yeah. Just with the idea of I'm especially struggling at the moment with the idea of, well, not the idea, but with building a nutrition plan. And
yeah,
this is something I really want to cover, and I know there's tons of people out there that struggle with the same. Um, what if I was to create week A, B, and C on a spreadsheet, and it's like 7 days, and it's got breakfast, morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea, dinner, and maybe like snack afterwards. I found out what my protein goal was per day, and carbohydrates, as you said, goal per the day, and I could like research meals that would get me that, and would be easy enough to prep during or before the week starts and would suit my lifestyle. Would that kind of work?
You could do.
Yes.
What a lot of people tend to do is they eat the same thing every day. The downside of that is you might end up getting a little bit malnourished after a while.
Yeah.
So it depends. If you're happy to, for some people, they don't mind cooking 4 times a week. And well, that's a lot of cooking when you look at when you go and eat 5 meals a day. But 2 of the meals might be exactly the same. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes when people do meal prep, they go and line up, 20 containers on the bench. They go and cook up, maybe they cook up a whole kilo of chicken, 2 kilos of chicken. They go and marinate it, stick it on the barbecue, cut it reasonably thick, or reasonably thin, I should say, and then marinate it, cook it on the barbecue. And then while that's doing that, they go and cook 5 cups of rice in the rice cooker. All right.
Yeah.
And then while that's doing that, they got two packets of frozen mixed vegetables. Now, the reason why I say mixed vegetables is because generally it's probably got more than one different color. So the easiest way, not looking at it from, oh, am I getting enough of this vitamin? Am I getting enough of this vitamin? Look at the vegetables and the fruits in terms of colors. So there's the colors of the rainbow. You got the
Red. Was it?
Yeah. The acronym
red.
Roy Gaviv. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And if you walk into the fruit and veg section of the shop, rather than going, oh, I don't like tomato, I don't like purple cabbage, I don't like squash, you look at it more as a color wheel. And then you ask yourself, you have this conversation with yourself, you ask yourself, am I getting all the colors? So then in terms of getting the colors, then you make something of that. Okay, well, I don't have anything purple. All right, well, I need purple cabbage. What have I got green? Maybe I've got a cucumber, or maybe I've got a broccoli. If I've got something white, well, even that's not in the rainbow, but white's maybe cauliflower.
Yeah.
Something red, you could either go capsicum or you could go an apple. Things like that. And when dietitians look at people's nutrition plan, that's what they get their clients to do, is that they look at colors, because you want to look at things that are easier. And the things that are easier is if you can not cook things as much as possible, 1, it's easy, and 2, it actually holds on to a lot more of the nutrients. So you might end up eating a lot of the vegetables raw. You might want to cook them. I don't know. A lot of the times when people cook vegetables, they might steam them. That's probably the easiest way, rather than boil the living guts out of them. And then fruits, well, you just eat them whole, because you get all the fiber from them. In terms of, so that could be, you got this pile of fruits and vegetables, and then you go, okay, well, what am I going to do with that? Oh, well, I go and stick it on. I've got 6 containers and I've got vegetables. Most vegetables you can lightly microwave for a minute and they heat up and they kind of steam in the container. Well, you can cut the vegetables up, put them in each container, and then you're like, okay, well, what do I want to eat with vegetables? And you go, okay, well, maybe I might have half a cup of rice. All right, so you put half a cup of cooked rice, bang, 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 bang. Yeah, okay, well, what do I want to eat the rest of it? Well, you might marinate some chicken. You might have some plain chicken. You might have some fish. You might have some beef. It really depends on what you like to eat. I try to only have red meat a couple of times a week. I try not to overeat on that. I usually stay away from the processed meats.
Definitely.
They're not too great for you.
A lot of fats.
Yeah, that too. So generally things like, your leaner steaks, like your sizzle steaks, if you can see the fat, then it's probably too fatty. Same as the chicken. I'd probably go more towards chicken breast over chicken thigh, even though chicken thighs are probably a bit more tastier. Sometimes turkey mince, if you can get turkey mince breast, because it's a little bit leaner. Pork, same thing. It can be fatty. It really depends on where it originated from, depending on how fatty it is from there. So, and then what you do with that, whether you turn that into a meat or a sauce or something like that, then you might dribble that over the rice. Instead of the rice, you might use pasta, and then you might make some sort of a sauce. If you go and put a passata with any sort of meat, maybe some chopped up onion and some garlic and some olives, boom, Italian herbs, there's a little that makes plain chicken actually taste reasonably okay. Now you might do half your meals like that in 1 week. Then you might make the other ones. You go and get, just say you got some beef, you got cut up beef and that sort of stuff. You got a whole pile of it, some cut up onions and some garlic and some pepper. Chuck in a bit of curry powder or something like that, maybe a dash of milk. All of a sudden, I got like a curried beef, something or other. You know what I mean? Like it's really limited up to your imagination.
Imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you like eating plain food and you can deal with that, some people could just deal with, okay, well, I'm just going to have a carrot, 2 carrots, a tin of tuna, and a protein bar, and I'm going to eat that every day for lunch.
Yeah,
Now,
that's my lunch at school.
well, you got to look, rather than spending, some people are spending it, they got time to spend a couple of hours in the kitchen, but if you don't have the time in the kitchen, you got to think, well, what's easy? Well, cans of tuna is easy. Things like carrot sticks is easy. Celery sticks is easy. The cucumber is easy. There's like 15 different varieties of tuna that you could possibly eat. It just depends on how greasy you want them to be, really. You can have salmon, you could eat sardines. Tin fish is probably one of the easiest ones you could possibly have. It doesn't smell the best, but if you can stomach it, it's 15 to 30 grams, depending on how big the portion is in terms of protein. And then outside of that, cooked rice. Rice is cheap. A bit of rice in a lunchbox, maybe a couple of cups, and you could eat it throughout the day rather than going in slices of bread. But if you want something easy rather than having to use a fork all the time, well, then you might get peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah.
And use the peanut butter that hasn't got all the sugar and the grease in it, the one with 100% peanuts, something like that. Yeah. Then you go and you might have a larger tin of tuna, the real bigger ones.
Yeah, the massive ones.
Not the massive ones, like the in-between one. So that's probably like 30 grams. You go and get a peanut butter sandwich in there. There's another 10 grams. Might have a protein shake in, and that's 25 grams. Chuck in a couple of pieces of fruit, put in some cucumber, and then all of a sudden you've just built what you eat for just the daytime, like lunchtime and morning tea, for that period of time. Then in the morning, you might be a smoothie. You might be protein shake, oats, berries, milk, something like that. Maybe it's porridge or something like that. And then and then at night time, it might be the biggest piece of meat you could possibly find that's lean, maybe with some rice or some pasta, and then whatever vegetables are going. Because you can obviously, if you're living in a household, you can't always go, well, actually, Mum, I'm not going to eat that today because that's not part of my plan. So
what you're saying is you can supplement meals, if you will. You can kind of, maybe if you meal prepped with, let's say you're a student such as I am with your parents, you could somehow meal prep with them to make sure you hit that protein goal and just go, oh, they might not have, like, I don't know, 4 more serves of pasta or 2 more serves of pasta like I will, but at least I'm hitting my goal for the day. Absolutely. Or so on and so forth. Yeah
definitely. There's so many things that you can do, because you still have to work within the realms of your environment. And what I mean by that is exactly what you're saying. You see what's on offer at the moment. Okay, so maybe the protein's not quite where you want it to be. You might, like, a can of tuna is 90 cents if you're happy to get the generic brand. And you know what? They probably all come from the same country. Thailand. Some of them come from Mexico, but as long as they're probably dolphin safe. And then that's an easy way. If you had a meal that would normally have maybe 30 grams, and if you want a bit more protein, you want to bring it up to 45, you go and have a small can of spring water tuna. It's low in carbs, low in fat, but it's high in protein. Do you have to hold your nose to eat it? Sometimes you do, depending on if you don't like tuna. But if you pick things that you're happy to eat, then you'll be able to eat them longer. So I go in cycles. So I might go on a sardine bender for maybe 3 months. I eat a tin of sardines every day, right? Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, I can't stand the sight of a tin of sardines. I'm going to eat a can of tuna every day. So I do that for 3 months. And then I'm like, okay, I'm done with that. And then you might find Something else that you might, you just go down the tin food aisle and go, oh, you have a look at the labeling. You go, oh, that's not too bad. Yeah, that's not too bad. I tend to do it with tinned fish. 6 months of the year I'll eat tinned fish. The other 6 months of the year, no, don't want to see it. Nothing to do with it.
You're
But
doing that other 6 months of the year when you're not eating 10 fish. What do you tend to eat?
instead,
Yeah,
probably more chicken.
just chicken. Yeah, very nice.
Probably more chicken. Same as eggs. I go in a bit of an egg phase. I might
Yeah,
eat eggs 3 days of the week. I do like some of the Helga's bread you can buy is low carb, high protein bread.
yeah,
So it might have 10 grams of protein per 2 slices. And I do kind of like a French toast with, 4 eggs, 4 slices of bread, bit of pepper and salt, some light cheese, and then I crispy the hell out of it in the pan. And then I put pepper and salt on it, and I have that with a decaf coffee, and that's like a meal number 2 during the daytime.
yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and I don't have to worry about scrambling the eggs or something. I just smash them on there, and they just kind of end up looking like someone threw them on the floor. But
As long as
four,
it's edible.
well, yeah, 4 eggs. It's about 20 grams of protein, and if I get another 20 grams from the 4 slices of bread, that's 20 and 20. That's 40 minus a bit of cheese. That might be close to 47 when you're going out a little, maybe 50 grams of cheese, which is about half a cup or a quarter of a cup. And it tastes all right. So yeah, 3 or 4 days a week I might eat something like that. It just really depends on how I'm
How much?
feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you
And the other thing
feeling?
as well is it also dependable on is you could eat the same thing every day in, day out, but what you might find is on a day where you're training legs or your day you're doing like a double session of something. So maybe you're
Yeah.
boxing and doing weights, or then you feel like you could eat your hand twice over. So
Yeah.
then your plan that you devise, you go, okay, well, this is what I'm going to eat. On the days that you're doing double sessions, you're like, wow, I'm like 1,000. I'm so hungry right now. So rather than looking at the plan and going, well, what do I do with it? Well, you eat until you can't, and you don't feel like eating, and
Yeah.
then you go and log it, and you have a look at it, and go, oh wow, I ate an extra 1,000 calories, or maybe I actually ate an extra 500.
Yeah.
But whilst you're active, you can get away with that. You can go and eat until you're happy. So
Yeah.
that's the other
Yeah.
thing to consider. But yeah.